Well, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the round table here with Ben. How's it going, man?
It's going good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing good. You can tell I have had way too much caffeine this early in the morning.
It's all
Holy
good.
shit.
You're about to have a hell of a workout, I'll tell you that.
Yes, it's going to feel great. I'm excited. We're doing back. I couldn't do legs if I wanted to.
Back.
I literally felt like a bitch yesterday trying to do legs. I'm like, I'm about to quit and go do chest or back. And I did chest the day before, and I'm doing back today. I was about to say, fuck it.
As long as you can walk out, you're good.
I'm not sure I can do a whole lot. Oh, man.
Well, good to have you here. Good. We caught up already on some stuff, and life's been kind of crazy, but overall good. And moving forward, we got a lot of stuff coming up. We have to start planning some stuff for sure to kind of get people involved. I know I don't know when summer officially starts, but to me, when it gets hot, it is summer. So
I think it started like 2 weeks ago.
Did it?
I really don't know.
Okay, I don't know. I always gauge it by
Here, let's find out. I'll look it up.
Can long sleeves go away and short sleeves go in? I mean, and I can be comfortable outside, which honestly at any point in any season I'm good. But
I guess it starts June 21st.
Okay, so to me it started because it is above 80 degrees and it is hot as
Oh yeah.
So I was outside yesterday too, getting some weeds done, and it was, man, God, just being outside for like 10 minutes. I'm like, dude, I'm already sweating. I got a nice little tan going. I'm like,
I know. I've been walking around with tank tops
Oh,
and shirtless,
you gotta
trying to
get it.
even my tan out. It's terrible.
you gotta get it, man. Look,
Yeah.
not too bad now, but man, I was.
I
We
don't
went
even want to
golfing
show
with
you.
Gary in Bear Lake, and I had this big old tan line on from. Oh man, it was bad. I hate the way that looks too. I think it looks goofy. So I'm like,
That's why I'm wearing tank tops. I'm trying to like even my arms out.
What do they call it? Is it a farmer's tan?
Yeah, farmer's tan.
Okay.
That's me. You look at my neck, it's bad. It is bad.
Well,
And I'm jealous of my wife because she's already like almost your color.
she's just tanning out. There you go. Gotta do those noon walks, man. That's where you get the nice tan at. So, but yeah, man, good to have you here again. And what do we got into? What do we get into today?
We'll do a little Q&A, just a little talking, just see what we got going on.
All right, what you got for me, man? Shoot me.
But the one that keeps coming back to me is, what has been your most enjoyable parts of your journey and your worst parts of your journey?
Enjoyable parts and worst, right?
Yep, because I know this has been, 5 years for you? Something like that since you
Since
kind
I started, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And I know, and it hasn't been like this perfect. It never is. It's never this just perfect, like, oh, look at me, I'm growing. No, it never ends up that way, but there's always peaks and valleys. But what have been some of your biggest takeaways? What have been some of your biggest joys, biggest proudest moments, whatever? And what have been some of the harder parts along the journey for you? I guess we'll word it that way, harder parts along the journey.
Okay, so I'll start with the enjoyable because that's just easy. That's at the forefront, right? For me, the most enjoyable parts of, I guess let's relate it to a specific. Are you talking about just growth in general, right?
Yeah. Since that's what we're talking about here for the most part is growth. Let's talk about the growth part of it because there's 100 aspects, and that's just covering the first sentence. So
Okay. From a growth standpoint, I think the most enjoyable part is the awareness that you get when you're starting to grow. And I'm going to go back and forth here because I like to think about it this way. I think everything is a double-edged sword.
absolutely.
I think that the enjoyable parts can also be the least enjoyable parts at the very beginning. And so to me, the awareness was great. Like when I actually started looking at how aware I was of what negative things I was saying in my head to myself, some of the negative habits that I had. It was great because I was like, I can actually see these things that are actually affecting me and not allowing me to grow as fast or as efficient as I want. But also, it was almost depressing because I was like, why do I do these things? Why am I this way? Why am I still, why did it take me so long to see these habits? Or I think we've talked about this where you might be somewhere and you look at somebody or you look at a group of family and you're like, what the and I had that happen to me. I mean, I've been doing Home Depot runs, I feel like 3 times a day. And I saw a family, and to be honest, I was a little upset because they weren't, I know I'm not the like super in like shape. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm doing things to try to help that.
Yeah.
And you could tell these people weren't there. And it's like, I looked at that because I was like, well, they're just not aware. They're choosing not to be aware of what's happening or what culture they're breeding within their family. And it low key like saddened me. I was like, because at that point, like and I think, and why I think I've told you this is where you can't force somebody to grow.
Nope.
All I can do is, like, even with this podcast or when you meet somebody, you can try to plant a seed, but you can't force anybody to change. You can't force anybody to want to be better, do better at the things that, whether it be, health or fitness or whatever, or anything in general. You can't really force them. And so it was hard seeing that. But it goes back to, that was some of the most enjoyable parts, was like noticing the things that you're doing different to be better. But it was also hard because you're like, why did I wait so long? Why did it take me? Luckily, nothing negative came out about, like, I wasn't like, you're on your deathbed or you're already diabetic and now you got to try, it wasn't like that, but
minus the doctor saying, hey,
you're close, you're pre, right? So it's like, okay, now reel it back in. So it's like, it's sad that at some point the awareness has to come from somebody else to tell you, hey, you need to be better. But I think if you can take that initial step of like, okay, acceptance of like, okay, this person's looking out for me, and then move it into like, I'm going to take personal ownership of that and be better. So I think that was enjoyable, is like the awareness, and also it was very, very enjoyable to watch my wife transition into that phase as well. She was already on her own spiritual kind of journey. She was growing there where I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was really like,
she's been really into that stuff for a long time.
Yeah. But way before we even started gymming. So yeah, for sure.
Okay. Hold on. Pause for 1 second. So I want to ask you this. This is a sub question on that. What was along your journey? 'Cause I know you've lost some weight and you've done some of this and that. What is one non-scale victory that you can think of that was like that, oh shit, I am doing this? Like, with all the work you've put in, all the stuff that you're like, oh shit, I can tell. Like, where was that? Do you have one that like pops out in your head? I have one that when we interview my wife, that it's going to be that was that was a, oh shit, like snap moment for me. Because you're with these people every fucking day, so it's hard for you to see it. But do you have one of those?
Yeah. So, and I posted this when I did my first 75 hard. So my wife, she bought me 2 shirts when we first met.
Oh, I do remember the story.
It's a green Volcom shirt that I have upstairs, and she also bought me another Volcom shirt, but it's a dress-up shirt. Like a more button-up kind of, still kind of cool looking, but it's not super businessy, but it just looks good. And she bought me that when we first started a relationship, and I loved them. I thought the colors were sick. Didn't wear a whole lot of Volcom growing up, but it just looked sick. So I was like, okay, cool, you did great. I was super ecstatic about it. I never had a girl that I was dating buy me clothes. So I was like, damn, this girl's chill, So I wanted to really wear it. Well, at the time I couldn't fit into it. It just didn't look good on my body, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. So she'd ask me like, oh, like, why don't you try it on? And I was like, I was like, yeah, I did. If it's really good, I didn't want to upset her. And then, honestly, awareness, I didn't want to be aware that I could get into this clothes, or that I was overweight at the time and didn't like the way that my body looked. So that clothes legitimately sat in that closet until I started losing weight. And that was my like non-scale moment where at the end, I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to wear that shirt. And I put the shirt on. I was like, dang, like this like fits and like feels good. You know what I mean? I look good. And
it was that day that you were just you're looking in the closet for something. And you're like, I'm gonna
try that on.
I'm gonna check it. All right.
And
all right.
I called it the power of the shirt because it was always in the back, and it's not something that I was always pushing for, but it was like that like, oh man, like I'm actually doing something, you know, I'm actually changing something.
I love that.
I think that was one of the, I mean, there's a lot. There's honestly like 2 or 3 stories that I have that are similar to that. But the one that always jumps out is that one because it just always felt good. And it was so long. It was in the closet for so long that I was like, and now it's like freaking fading now because I wear it so often. But that was the story for me. That was all right. Yeah.
What was okay? So to finish off my question to you, what was the darkest? Like, what was the worst part about your journey? What was the hardest part? Worst part? Like, was it starting out? Sorry, guys. Was it starting out? Was it the hardest becoming aware of what bullshit you'd fed yourself for so long?
I think the hardest part is let me think this through because there is a lot of hard parts to it.
I mean,
physically,
we can come back, but
I think the hardest part for me, now that I think about it, is the fact that it like I said, it's the double-edged sword, right? It's the awareness part. It's knowing that I could have done this, but it's also not going into a loop of self-pity and victimhood. So I think the hardest part was shedding the victim mentality of that it was everybody else's fault, that I had done, like, not move better in my career, not move to pursue a business, make decisions because of others. A lot of different things in my life that, you know, I consider like growth wise. I felt like I was always, and it sucks because I always felt like I never had that mentality. But it was always kind of there. Maybe I didn't use it to the extent of some people might say like, oh, I wouldn't say that stuff, but I know I felt them. And so sometimes I just wanted to, you know, just not take ownership and responsibility for some of the things that had led me to my path. And so I think that was probably the hardest part, is just, you know, shedding that mentality and then coming to the realization that I had used that victim card at some points in my life.
And that's such a weird feeling when you start, like, I don't think mine's nearly as big as yours when it comes down to all that, but isn't it such a crazy feeling and a thought to think back to just be like, why was I that way? Yeah,
well, I think that the part in my mind was that because I'd been through so much that I was like, I couldn't be I almost used it to push me forward, but it was still a crutch. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a dark side, but it was controlling me and I wasn't controlling it.
I was just about to say, it's like, well, shit. It's like Grover says, you can't let the dark side control you. Yep. You need to control it.
And so I think that was probably one of the hardest. I mean, there's the physical, mental, and kind of dealing with the ebbs and flows of realization that you're not where you want to be, but you know you're not where you want to be, but you know where you want to go.
Right.
And that's by far one of the worst. That's one of the worst feelings that you can have. It's great when you kind of don't know. You're just growing and growing. You feel great. And I think I've told you this before. It's when you set things out, when you speak things, and you're not accomplishing them. That flow it's horrible. It's great for you, but it feels horrible. And it's I think I've told you, that when you speak these things into existence and you start kind of speaking your goals, you need to make sure that you strive as hard as you can to them, because once you set these things out, and especially you get, you know, like for me, it was getting my wife on board and all these other things, then these things don't come to fruition. It's a hard place to be, but you just have to know that you're making as long as you're taking the right steps to move forward, you can go to lay your head in the bed at night and know that you're doing these things to move forward. So there's a lot of different things that make it hard, but yeah. What about you, dude? I want to ask you that too. I'll ask you my question, but briefly. One, most enjoyable part, and then two.
I think the most enjoyable part's being able to see how my body's changing. Like it's hard, but like it's the hardest part because you look at yourself every day, but it's the most enjoyable part. You know, for me, putting on a t-shirt and it feeling tighter around the arms, or, you know, standing there and you can see, you know, I feel like my chest is coming in a lot, and I've put a lot of work in on it, and, you know, being able to look and be like, oh, I can go up in weight, or, you know, seeing some of the stuff that you're doing. It's just, that's the most enjoyable, and learning that it's not as hard as you thought it was. Like, you know, it's the same with like the 4 a.m. workouts, getting up early. Like it's not as hard as you think it is. Once you're in the habit, it's really not as hard as you think it is. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, you know, there's certain weeks where I'm like, shit, I don't even get one day to sleep until 6. You know, there's weeks that it's like that, and it's hard. But then at the same time, I'm like, that's the life I chose. Like,
Right.
I chose this life to get up and get moving and get pushing every day.
And you get to.
I get to. Yeah, that's another thing. I wake up and I get the opportunity. I have a supportive wife. I have kids that love to go to the gym. I have, you know, I have friends like you and family like you that enjoys that same stuff too, and it's cool. It's honestly one of the best parts, and like some of the gym culture is awesome. Some of the gym culture sucks, but that's, to me, it's seeing the changes. Yeah, it is life. To me, it's just seeing the changes and feeling better and better about myself. The worst part, I'd say the lows that come with it. You know, as much as everybody, you know, I guess let's word it this way. The gym is more of a mental thing for me. Yes, there's physical benefits, but it's more of a mental reset. You know, there's a lot of times, and, you know, this week's a great example of that. There's a lot of times where I wake up in the morning and it's just, I don't know, you know, I deal with shit, and it's like, wake up just like everybody else. And, you know, I wake up and I'm like, F this day already. You know, it's 4 a.m. and I don't even want to do a damn thing. But then I go, and when especially as of late, I'm able to do it and use that, I walk away with more gratitude than I did to begin with. So the worst part is the mental, but it's also the best part, you know, because there's those days, and I know you've had them, my buddies. I mean, all the people I talk to have them, where you'll go and you'll grab you're like, I threw 50s up and this was freaking light. And you go and you grab the 50s and you're like, I can barely even do shit.
But you showed up.
But
you showed up. And you're right. The weights feel, God, I swear somebody add some extra weight to these 50 pounds or something.
Yeah. Because there's days I grab them and I'm like, whoa, this feels light. I got to go up. And then I grab the same weight a week later and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm about to freaking hurt myself. But, you know, so that to me is the worst part, is the mental ups and downs, because and I've had so many thoughts on this over the last, how many days am I into this thing? 39 days, you know, of the ups and the downs of it and through it all. And I'm like trying to figure out what my mind is and where it is. And, you know, I have a shirt from First Form that says, this kind of goes into, I think it goes into everything. It says, and I bought it when I finished the last one, you know, and it says "Too stupid to quit" on the back. And I freaking love the shirt. And this round I've been thinking to myself, what does that shirt mean to you? Because there's more to it. The whole reason I bought it was, one, I like it, and two, I'm like, well, I was too stupid to quit the first time. And the more and more I think about it, I'm like, this is the perfect motto. Like, just too stupid to quit. You know, even when it's hard, you show up and you do it. Why? I guess I'm just too stupid to quit. I would love to hear the story behind why they put it on there and the person they put on the front of it, because he's actually the model for the shirt. And I would love to hear that story because I know there's a huge story behind that, the way he is and stuff. But I'm like, that's like my motto. Like, I love that now. I'm just too stupid to quit.
Love it.
So what's your question? I liked that one.
I like that, man. That was good. That was a good question. So for me, I'm trying to word this right. So,
well, you're good with words, so let's hear it.
Thanks. So I'm going to phrase this in a, I guess you can take it to wherever you want, right? But I'll give you some brief background, and then I will kind of tell you my part, because I feel like this is a very...
You're making me nervous.
This is a very open question, so I don't want you to feel on the spot, right? So, and maybe it might be to you. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just to me. But so let's just say in relationship, right? When I first started my relationship with Taylor, I feel like there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of stuff that we'd kind of been through, and we can get into that in later episodes. But there was trauma that was there, so we bonded over that trauma. And me as a people pleaser, there was always these moments in our relationship, and for a long time, that I felt like I had to make her happy. That I was the source of her happiness, or that she needed to be the source of my happiness. Well, that's not true.
No.
And so there was a lot of like codependency. There was a lot of things that we had done that were very, very, very self-destructive to our relationship in the very beginning. And a lot of those were led by myself, to be honest. It was just that's just, I took full ownership of that. And so I want to ask you, like, in your relationship, or in relationships in general, whether you take it wherever you want, but where do you feel that self-happiness comes from? And how important is it in a relationship or in a friendship to not be that person that you feel like you have to be the one of a source of happiness for somebody else, and own that? I don't want to say burden, but own that responsibility to said person.
Well,
hopefully that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. This is actually, I mean, this is my last, like 2-3 years. Was it? Because, okay, so kind of to go back, I didn't realize, because we kind of did the same thing when we were together. She, once we have her on, you guys will understand maybe a little bit more, hopefully. But she was, she's gone through her transformation. But before, I think she was more dependent on me. And once she started changing, I didn't let it went around. And for the longest time, and she says it, she's like, I can't be the source of your happiness, just like you're talking about. And I'm like, that it didn't fully register with me until I started really deep diving into myself. Because exactly, I can't rely on her to be happy. I need to be happy with myself. And when I finally came to the realization that I was not happy with myself, one, I realized that as I'm pushing myself harder and harder in the gym. So it's huge. It's massively important to be happy with yourself. If you can't rely on anybody else, just flat out. I can't rely on you to bring happiness into my life. I can't rely on my wife, my kids. Because ultimately, they'll bring you hits of that dopamine. You get that great kiss from your wife. You get that hug from your daughter. You get that bonding time with your brothers. Whatever the case may be, that's just a hit of happiness. But you have to be able to. If you're not coming in happy, that hits less and less every single freaking time. And looking back and noticing it's that's where I was. So this is a good question, because that's 100% where I was. And once the tables turned in our relationship, where it was more, and I don't think she ever relied on me to be happy. Just to be clear, she's an amazing woman and always has been. But where she was like, oh, I want to, be able to do more and this and that, and at for the longest time, and sometimes it's still hard. But when you've done this relationship like this for so long, it's hard to break these cycles. But it's getting easier and easier, and it's getting better and better. She took, just a quick example, she took her mom to Wendover for her mom's birthday, which was amazing. Her mom was beyond elated for that. She was so excited and so happy. And, that whole time, 6 months ago, a year ago, I might have had a hard time with that. But I was beyond excited that she had the opportunity to go. No cares, no worries, Okay, that maybe didn't sound right. Obviously, I care and worry about my wife. But,
you know what you mean.
Yeah. And she went, and instead of being just this depressed jerk of a dad and like having a hard time, because my kids, for some reason, man, they throw this absolute crying fit when mom leaves, which makes it extremely hard because sometimes they won't stop. Like, especially my youngest, she might cry for 30 or 40 minutes over it. And it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating. And somebody with a very short temper like myself, it just gets me. But, I dropped her off at the bus. We said goodbye. The girls got to say goodbye to grandma. And then we left. And I'm like, and they're kind of crying. I'm like, look, do you want to go get this? I was thinking we'd do this. Our whole morning from like 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. was just run, doing something. But I'm like, okay, let's go to the gym because they're going to let me take you to the gym. It's only, a couple bucks, which I love my gym because they took care of me. They know me enough that they're like, no worries, we got you. So we went to the gym. I was like, okay, after the gym, we'll go get you an acai bowl. And I was thinking maybe we'll stop and get a pool so you guys can play in the pool today. They're like, oh yeah. So we went to the gym. We went and got a pool. We went and got strawberries and an acai bowl and home and filled the pool up and play. And I mean, they had a great day. And then I went and took them to get Slurpees and something else, and they just had a great day. And then finally it was time to go pick up mom and everybody was happy again. I mean, my youngest cried again, but that's just my youngest kid. But it's being able to be happy in that moment and happy that my wife has the opportunities to go do this stuff and to be happy with my kids in the present time was a game changer. And I've had a few of those moments along my journey where I'm like, okay, I've got to realize that I just need to be happy. I need to be happy with what I'm doing, what my life is. And when I'm happier, fucking everybody's happier. At least in my household. I mean, I don't care about outside of that, but for the most part. But my relationship's better with my wife when I don't depend on her for my happiness. My relationship with my kids is better when I don't depend on my wife for my happiness. So overall, I don't know where the whole question started, but overall, you can't. Oh, you can't, And you need to take time for yourself, whatever that looks like. I was talking to my wife a little bit about this the other day. She's like, well, you have to think that every time you go to therapy, you technically are taking time for yourself. I'm like, well, you have a good point. I don't ever think about it that way, but I'm doing something for me to improve my happiness. It's just like when I go to the gym, I'm doing it for me. Yeah, my wife might get a, I don't know, better looking husband if that's what she feels like. But at the end of the day, I'm doing stuff for me now to benefit myself so I can benefit my family. It's like even just going home on lunch and grabbing the razor, just cruise to work in the razor. It's just kind of that moment for me to just enjoy it. I know myself well enough that I couldn't buy a motorcycle, but I'm like, this is my way of just being free and enjoying what the elements are for me.
I like that.
To answer your question, very long-winded.
I like that. And and I'll kind of give you an example too. So when kind of started figuring this stuff out and kind of seeing this as a habit, the question will be, did you do things? Can you recognize or say some things that you tried to do to try to make them happy? Because like during this cycle that we were in, I do little things like, put my self needs at the side and do things for her, or I would joke with her and try to make a joke of everything, kind of be a goofball. To try to make her happy and try to get the happiness out of her. Did you ever notice any traits, specific traits, that maybe little things that you would do to try to make or get some happiness or make her happy?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's, yes. I mean, I'll do anything for my family, just like I know you will. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely times where I'm like, just go take care of it, do whatever, and it's putting myself to the side. And, I know I've been pretty hurt by it, but we've also talked it all through, and it's, we understand each other a lot more. And once I understood that I needed to stand a little bit taller on my emotions, yes, it might hurt her a little bit, but it's something, boundaries. I can't push past this continuously because I know where it's going to go bad. It's as shitty as it sounds, her going out with friends became a harder thing, which is weird. It shouldn't be. But I had to find out why in myself it was that way. Mm-hmm. And so for a while, she'd be like, I just want to go out. And I'm like, okay, fine. But for some reason, I would get upset about it. And it's not right. And I know this. And I've worked a lot on this, people. Just be clear. I'm working on this. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that was her thing, is it's like, well, I don't want to go out with, my friends and come home to a shitty household. And I'm like, fair point. You shouldn't have to. I get that. And going through some of these experiences, like even like, well, I'll just use like her going to yoga and a cold plunge. I'm like, man, I'm excited. I wanted to do the cold plunge with you, but it's cool that you're doing this stuff. But you need to come home to a healthy household. Or her going out to lunch with a friend. Like, go have fun. Like, she went to lunch with a friend the other day. I was like, cool, go have fun. Like, just let me know when you're headed home. Just, keep me updated. Let me know when, I'd love to let me know when you get there, just so I know you're safe. And yeah, just let me know when you get home. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, everybody's allowed to have a life. Like, yes, you can have boundaries within that life, but you're allowed to have a life. Like, you're allowed to go out and be friends with people and do shit. God damn it, this microphone, man. It's getting in my way. But that was a whole part of me relying on her to be happy. She would leave and I wouldn't be happy. Well, that's not how it's supposed to fucking be. Like, and I feel like a piece of shit for it, but I can't dwell on being a piece of shit and still be happy. I just need to say, hey, why are you such an idiot about this shit? Just move the fuck on. Just go. Like, she does not control my happiness. I control my happiness.
That's a good point. No, and I can relate to that.
Hopefully that makes sense and answers your question.
No, it does. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think I've told you, like, the more we talk through things, the more it's funny. It's not. I'd say it's kind of funny because that journey that it sounds like you've already been through. But if we would have talked through this stuff 2 years ago or 3 years ago, because this is when I kind of dealt with all that stuff. I'd be like, hey man, like, it's the whole take this left instead of this right.
Yeah.
Because I've been there. And I don't say that to like, oh, you should act, but I'm just telling you so I can relate to you, to tell you, like, I know exactly what the hell you're talking about. Because we had that. It's funny because Tay told me the same thing. Like, it's so, like, stand your ground. Like, it's okay to tell me that you're mad at this or that you don't like this. Like, it's okay to feel your emotions. And to bring it back to the, like, part of, like, when she would leave, I'm like, oh yeah, you're cool, go. And then she would leave. I'm like, I'm pissed off. I'm like,
Right.
why are you pissed off? And why? So we talked about those things. Like, it all came to the forefront. Like, well, and I had to be real about it. Like, it's got nothing to do with you. It's all got everything to do with me. My own mind is drawing these scenarios and all these different things that aren't reality, and it's messed up to you. But I have to figure this out.
I think that was the hardest part, was trying to figure out that it's my fault that the shit's happening,
Yep.
which, that goes into Jocko's extreme ownership. I had to figure out, well, this is your fault, you dumbass. You're the one causing these problems. Like, and obviously not obviously, but you're always going to have problems because new situations arise daily. I'll go back to Jocko, extreme ownership talking. If you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. Even the dichotomy is great so far. But
And the way the Warrior Kid too for kids,
yeah,
amazing, dude.
I haven't done that one yet, but
For your kids,
yeah, but he's he relates it all back to the military stories, which is amazing. That shit just drives me insane, and I cannot imagine what these guys went through during these times. But he's like, at the end of the day, I can tell you 100 scenarios that are going to happen, but you cannot predict people. Mm-hmm. So you can't predict the situation. You're never going to know 100% what's going to happen in the situation until the situation happens. But what you need to do, one, you need to focus on yourself. And two, when it's all said and done, you need to talk about what the hell happened between you guys. What happened? If, for example, wife goes out with friends. Why am I mad that she's going out with her friends? I shouldn't be, but why? What did you do that made that? Did you do something that made me feel this way? Or am I just acting this way? This is something and then you guys talk about it. Okay, well, this happened. Why did this happen? You have that communication, that open communication, those okay, well, I didn't like how this went down. Can we work on this? You have to compromise too. At the end of the day, you have to compromise. You can't be like, you can't fucking do that, da, da, da. No, you need to compromise. Hey, next time, can we do this? Kind of a scenario.
It's definitely compromise, but it's that awareness piece, right?
Yeah, you need to be aware of it.
If you're aware of why you are feeling this way, why your source of happiness is so reliant on your wife to be with you in my situation, why it's the why behind everything. Mm-hmm. And the moment that you can get down to that, the conversation is greater than you just pointing your finger at the person standing in front of you saying, it's your fault.
Yeah.
It's the finger that needs to go towards you and say, what am I doing wrong? It's that ownership, extreme ownership. It's figuring out why you're feeling these feelings and understanding them and saying, okay, now that I'm aware, I need to deal with them forefront, have the conversation, and work through the process of knowing. And it's not a simple fix. In my situation, it's still not, it's still not something, I've got a million times better than what I was, but it was like,
those emotions
it was
are always
so
be
deep
there.
rooted from my standpoint, it was just a self of insecurity, past traumas that would come up, and I'd be like, why the hell did I do and I'm looking at my wife, I'm like, you are not that person. You are not this thing that I'm creating in my head. And it's just, it goes back to you.
100%.
And you need to be your own source of happiness, and you can also never try to be the source of somebody else's happiness, because the moment you try to do that and take that responsibility on, you're going to drain everything you have in yourself, and it doesn't work.
No.
So, man, I just wanted to ask you that. Anything else that you want to hit on that?
No, man, I think we're good.
All right, brother. Well,
do you have a challenge?
Thank you for that challenge. I think for me, based on the way that everything that we've talked about, is awareness, guys.
I was going to say the same thing.
Look at your surroundings. Look at your awareness. Be aware of what you're doing, whether it be negative, positive, anything that you have in your life that maybe you want to fix. Start becoming aware and implement actions to move forward and past the things that are greater, move into greater paths of what you're trying to do. So,
I was going to say, what my therapists tell me, is, hey, when you're getting these anxiety attacks or whatever the case may be, take a minute to stop and think about why. Try to figure out the why of why you're doing it. Be aware of why it's happening and why you're doing it, and that's going to be, it'll be a game changer. Even if it's small, minute changes over the course, if you're making the changes, shit's going to get better.
Boom. Love it, man. Thank you for another episode, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Remember, like, share, subscribe. We'd love to hear your feedback, good, bad, whatever you guys have. Just send it our way. We'd love to hear it. We're thankful you guys tune in every week. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Another good one.
You too.